Good evening and welcome to our August 25th council meeting. I'd like to welcome everybody for being here. It's going to be a good, productive meeting, I'm sure. Roll call, we have a full council. And if you'd please stand and for the pledge, and Councilman Arnold Lopez will lead that. And the invocation will be by Councilwoman Brantner.
I pledge allegiance to
To
the
the
flag
flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and
justice for all.
Good evening. As we open this meeting, let us center ourselves in the purpose that brings us here, the service and stewardship of our community. May we be mindful of the trust placed in us and approach our responsibilities with care, humility, and respect. Let our discussions tonight be guided by a spirit of cooperation and a commitment to the common good. May we remain focused on solutions, grounded in integrity, and open to the diverse perspectives that strengthen our city. Together, may we lead with wisdom and act with heart. Amen.
Thank you. And next, we'll move on to item number 5, citizen comments on agenda items. Cindy, we have two here. Woodman, we have two here. One is for the airline service. Do you want to wait till that agenda item comes up?
Ms. Woodman, if you could please wait for the diocese. Thank you.
My name is Cindy Woodman, and I'm going to make the same comment for both the Safford City utilities consideration of raise in rates, as well as for considering supporting or not supporting the air services for this community. And all I have to say is, just because you can
Ms.
doesn't
Woodman,
mean that you should.
Ms. Woodman, if you could please state your full name and address for the record.
I already
and then
said my
we'll start the
name. My
2-minute
name is
timer.
Cynthia Woodman, and my address is 1305 Central Avenue.
Thank you.
But just because you can doesn't mean you should. And just because it's legal doesn't mean it's ethical. It doesn't mean it's moral. It doesn't mean that it has character to it. And that is what I mostly would have to say about consideration of raising utility rates. Because especially for those who are on Social Security, the consideration of rate increases far exceeds what the increases will be for most for Social Security. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. On both items, right? Thank you. Okay. Then we'll move on to item number 7. We'll close the regular meeting and reconvene into a work session. Number 8, the work session, airline service funding extension request. Cameron?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request for Mayor and Council to hold a work session regarding the proposed expenditure of additional funds to extend airline service through July 2026. Strategic goals for this item are growth and development and financial management. Beginning in 2022, the airport manager began to investigate grant opportunities to support the initiation of airline service out of Safford. In the fall of 2024, those efforts came to fruition with the award of an $800,000 grant through the U.S. Department of Transportation's Small Community Air Service Development Program and a $100,000 grant through the Freeport-McMoran Community Foundation. The City of Safford contributed a match of $150,000 towards the project, with $100,000 being used to fund the airline revenue guarantee, while the remainder has been used to fund marketing and the initial study and DOT grant application. Airline service was launched in January and has seen continued growth over the intervening 7 months. However, due to a variety of factors, revenue guarantee funds were expended at a more rapid rate than was initially anticipated, leaving the city with $95,000 in remaining MRG funds as of August 1st. Beginning on August 1st, the flight schedule was reduced by half to 7 weekly flights, greatly reducing the required monthly expenditure. Staff has determined that in order to ensure the long-term viability of airline service out of Safford, long-term grant funds are required. Since no grant funds are available at the federal level, the airport manager has worked with a number of other airports across the state to form a consortium. This consortium is actively engaged in lobbying the state of Arizona, particularly the Office of Tourism, to establish a state air service program. And one of the provisions of that program would be to provide subsidies to support airline service in small communities around the state, including Safford. If the consortium is successful, this program would be in effect beginning as soon as July of 26, coinciding with the next state budget year. Since the opportunity for long-term funding is a possibility, staff has determined that continuing the program until such long-term funding is available is the course with the best chance of success. Ending the program now would result in the loss of all forward momentum and the customer base that has been gained so far. And therefore, staff is requesting funding as laid out below. Please note, of the funds that have been expended so far, technically only $5,000 of city funds have been expended to this point. We had $900,000 in grant funds. We have $95,000 from the initial $1 million remaining. And we need about $750,000 to carry us through to July of 26. That being said, we have applied for a $200,000 grant through United Way to help bridge that gap, and we need about $455,000. There are funds, correct me if I'm wrong, Troy, there are funds budgeted in the Economic Development Fund that are earmarked for this that council could authorize to use for this project. So it would not be a contingency fund request. So with that, we're requesting input, and at this time, I'd like to open it up and allow the folks from Grand Canyon to give a quick presentation, and then I have some additional information I'd like to present to council as well. And please remember, this is a work session, so please feel free to ask questions at any time. So for you.
Well, Cameron gets the slides together. My name is Irit Langnes. I'm Senior Vice President for Grand Canyon Airlines.
Ma'am, could you please speak into the
The
microphone?
microphone be a lot easier.
Thank you.
While Cameron is getting the slides ready, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Irit Langnes. I'm Senior Vice President for Grand Canyon Scenic Airlines. And
Some
on
of
my
you
left
met
is,
me. My name is Craig Sanderson. It's just in chief. I'm the Director of Revenue Management for the company, Regulatory Compliance.
he has a lot more
I'm
titles
doing
than
that.
I do.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members. A big thank you to John, City Manager Eric, and mostly to Cameron for facilitating this. I'll start with extending sincere apologies from our President Jake Tomlin. Some of you may have met him. He had a family emergency. His son got pretty banged up at a football match a week ago, and he couldn't make it here, so he sent us on his behalf. He did want us to express his sincere gratitude on behalf of our entire team for the privilege of partnering with your community. Wherever this goes forward, we have learned a lot, and I hope we have shown our dedication to your community. He also wanted me to recognize, and Cameron, I don't want to embarrass you too much, but between Craig and I think there's over 50 years of aviation experience. And in all our different airports that we operated, I worked for SkyWest, so did Craig. We've yet to come across an airport manager that is so steadfast, so hardworking, whether it was ramping our aircraft, fueling it, helping the pilots find their way, certainly liaising with our marketing team on a weekly basis. His service to your community is exceptional, and we just wanted to extend a big thank you on behalf of our entire team for that. So, moving forward, you can see the headline of the slide. We are here to. I can still read as far as. Okay, now I lost it. We're here to express our continued commitment to your community. We're here to build a sustainable future for Safford Air Service, and we're here to show you how our dedication and how our role in partnering with you. Um, Thank you. Just digressing a bit, and maybe Craig can respond to that, but for those who've had the pleasure to fly on our airline, I think possibly unanimously, I'd like to think unanimously, the service was excellent. The on-time performance is above 95%. You can correct me on that. And the convenience was bar none. If there's anything we can improve on in terms of service, we'll certainly love to hear that. As I mentioned earlier, our marketing team, weekly has scheduled meetings with Cameron to talk about outreach, to talk about promoting more ridership, to talk about social media initiatives, to talk about revenue and increasing yield. That has been ongoing from day one. We're talking about increasing the subsidy, and I just want you to put this in perspective. Beginning August 1, as many of you know, we reduced the service to 1 round trip per day instead of 2. Intuitively, you would think that cuts our expense in half. That's really not quite the case. It does cut it. We don't use as much fuel, right? We don't have landing fees in Phoenix, but we still have a pilot crew that we need to pay. We have housing here in Safford. We have an aircraft we have to pay for. We have insurance. So my whole point is there are hard costs that are not going to be covered with 1 round trip. And yet our ownership and Jake, our president, feels so strongly about building a sustainable service for Safford community that he is willing. And by the way, this is our peak tourism season too, so there's a lot of demand for that for aircraft and pilots right now. And yet we honorably said to Cameron, absolutely, count on us. We're your partners. We will do whatever it takes to make this work. And this was the way we demonstrated our commitment. In terms of revenue pricing and strategy, we certainly, obviously the subsidy ran faster than we all had hoped. That had to do with load factors and had to do with the with price of the tickets. Cameron, I think you'll address it a little bit more further on in your presentation, but I just wanted you to take a look at the slide, and you'll see that there has been improvement from June to July. We implemented what we call dynamic pricing. This is basically encouraging early bookings, and as you get closer in, prices increase. You've got your business traveler that may be able to pay a higher rate than a community member that's going to see their grandchild, right? So we have implemented strategies that would work with that. We now have a system that does manage yield, and as I mentioned, our team works weekly with Cameron to tweak it, and Cameron, of course, Cameron's entire motivation is tweak it, but don't completely have 0 passengers flying on the airline. Cameron also alluded to getting other communities on board so that we can support that aircraft by diversification. We are in communication with Grand Canyon West. Our company is very adept to tourism, and the Grand Canyon West is up. Well, it's controlled by the Hualapai Native American tribe. They're very interested in increasing their enplanements to the airport for funding, and also tapping into the Phoenix market for more tourism opportunities. We've been in negotiations with them, and we'll see where that goes, but it's ongoing. Grand Canyon National Park South Rim is the same boat. It's the only airport that's owned by the state of Arizona, but a lot of the businesses would like to see access from Phoenix. It's a big market, and it's opposite season for tourism than Las Vegas is. So they would complement and add more hotel nights, overnights for Tucson for South Rim. And the last but not least is Lake Havasu, the airport manager of Lake Havasu, gentleman by the name of Robert Kane, met with us. He's got the pro forma, and he will be addressing his council shortly to see what their appetite is for continued support of this collaborative effort. So we're available for questions without doubt. Craig can answer a lot to the conformity, regulatory issues. I can from a sales and marketing point of view, but I do want to leave you with what our president would leave you, which is we have thoroughly enjoyed working with your community. We hope to continue to do so, and appreciate the time and chamber support throughout all of this, and many of you who have been on our services. So with that, I'll turn it over to Cameron.
All right. Thank you, Reed. So Mayor and Council, I wanted to give an opportunity really quickly to give you an update on where obviously you heard where we came from, now here's where we are. So obviously, as I mentioned in the CCNF, passenger numbers have continued to rise. Obviously, we started service during the winter, during a low travel time, which is great for us. We were able to build operational capacity, build the service, build marketing. And as the summer approached, we saw numbers rose pretty significantly. The one downside to that is actually we found that we were completing more flights, which sometimes meant higher cost. The way our revenue guarantee agreement with Grand Canyon was set up, if a flight didn't go, we didn't necessarily pay for it as long as one flight per day went. As service built, we were seeing more flights being used, still with some lower load factors. So with that being said, we reduced the schedule to one flight a day to maximize our load factor on the aircraft. As Arit also mentioned, we now have dynamic pricing in effect. So what that means is pricing is now based on the time you book prior to departure. The idea there is we still allow community members to see some of those lower fares, especially if you're traveling for leisure or you're booking more than 7 days out. For business travelers that are traveling last minute, they absorb some of those higher costs and help support the airline. And we have seen that to be pretty successful. As Arit alluded, we've seen a 42% increase in average ticket price over the last month. So MRG use, we're now at a point, as I mentioned, where 90% of funding has been expended. You can see based on the graph, minimum revenue guarantee. So the expenditure of funds we're using to subsidize the airline. I do want to clarify, we have to be very careful with the wording we use, subsidy versus a revenue guarantee, because of some of the federal requirements. So we're not paying a subsidy. We're funding the difference in between the airline's actual revenue and a preset revenue requirement that they have in order to make the service worth it for them to perform. So we have $95,000 in funds remaining at the current rate that because we've reduced the schedule. That means we're looking at the current rate, service would end sometime in late September. As I mentioned, we do have dynamic pricing in place as well, and that's greatly helped to reduce cost. We have seen a pretty significant growth in passengers. Starting in January, we ran 90. May was our peak month at over 200. And we saw a slight decrease going into June and July. That's typical of summer travel. It starts to run down after school gets out. And most of our travelers are primarily business travelers. So dynamic pricing, as I already mentioned, dynamic pricing, essentially what it's doing is it's setting the ticket prices based on, in order to maximize profit for that seat, while also not taking advantage of anybody. So making sure the business travelers are bearing the higher costs that really support the airline. It's what every airline does. As I'm sure you're aware, if you've ever booked an American Airlines flight, if you book it the day prior to departure, you're going to pay a much higher fare than if you book 90 days out. So essentially, we're doing the same thing here. We had to rework some of the systems that Grand Canyon was using, and we were able to get that in place. Additionally, we're down to one flight a day, and we adjusted the flights, especially on the weekends, to maximize what we saw passengers were actually utilizing. During the week, flights leave early in the morning, come back at night, and then on Saturdays, they leave in the morning, come back around noon, and Sunday's the opposite. They leave around 2 o'clock. Come back in the evening, because we found that's when travelers were demanding tickets the most. So we were able to adapt. So essentially, what's the path forward? So obviously, we're 2 months away from running out of funds. Obviously, August and September, we're now part way through August, so we're realistically about a month and a half away from running out of funding. We have received some feedback on how best to allow Freeport to utilize the airline, and we're actively working with them to maximize their usage. And we're exploring long-term funding through the state. That's our big thing is, at this point, most rural air services rely on some form of a subsidy, just because rural air service out of a small community is incredibly hard to sustain in order to get the ticket price you'd actually have to get for a small aircraft like this. Nobody would pay it. So we're looking at that long-term funding through the state. New Mexico has a program they passed a few years ago that's very similar to what we're trying to do with the state of Arizona. And we do have a pending grant application with United Way, as I mentioned, for $200,000 to help bridge that gap until next fiscal year with the state. So here's where we have adjusted to. So previous months, our base cost was around $170,000. We've reduced that pretty significantly down to $86,000. Our projections are based on a monthly revenue of about $18,000. That means about $600 a day in revenue, leaving the city with a cost of about $58,000 per month on average, which means we'd need about $750,000 to carry us through to July, which is a significant reduction over what we were paying previously as we were learning, tweaking schedules, finding which flights folks were using. Previous months we were paying upwards of $140,000. So now we've reduced that pretty significantly by 2/3 to a point where it's a lot more manageable. And this is that same graph from the CCNF, just for your awareness. Easily broken down. Total city share on this would be $455,000. The important thing to note is at this point, as I mentioned, CCNF, we've spent $150,000 in city funding. Really, at this point, we've expended federal funds and funds from the mine is what we've done. And those funds have allowed us to learn quite a great deal. When you start a new service like this, you really have no data to go off of. You don't know what the best times of day are going to be. You don't know what ticket prices people will pay. So a lot of this was stuff we had to learn as we went. As we move forward, obviously, you can see MRG expenditures now that we've gone to one flight a day are going to drop pretty significantly. We base this on not only are we going to see a reduction in the number of flights and therefore the amount we have to pay, but also we've seen a steady growth in passengers and ridership and average ticket revenue. So we should see that go down as well over the next several months. So obviously the biggest thing here is we're asking to bridge the gap. This isn't long-term. This isn't something that we're going to do forever. We need something to bridge the gap until we can get funding from the state. So that Air Service Consortium that we've mentioned a couple times now, I helped put this together. So this is pretty much every airport around the edge of the state, and then some even in the interior that do have airline service but would like to have more. So Safford, Grand Canyon West, Sedona, Lake Havasu, Mojave County Airport Authority, which is Laughlin Bullhead, Yuma, Flagstaff, and Kingman are all on board. And we're all working together to try to get long-term funding from the state of Arizona. Arizona really has an issue with a lack of air service to a majority of its outlying communities that are 3, 4, 5 hours away from a major hub in Phoenix. The great state of Maricopa County gets a lot of the love and a lot of the airline service, and we want to see more of that for rural Arizona.
Cameron,
Yes.
if this consortium is successful, is the end result just state funding that will continue to make up that revenue gap? Or is there some other version?
So the Mayor, Councilmember Hemphill, the ultimate goal would be there would be different tiers for different airports. So airports like Yuma or Flagstaff that already have scheduled commercial service, this might come in various forms for them. It might be marketing funds. It might be a revenue guarantee to bring in a low-cost airline. For airports like us and Kingman and some of the other smaller airports, it would be a long-term subsidy similar to what New Mexico did. So New Mexico gives $1 million a year to rural airports to fund air service. Gallup, Las Cruces are some examples of those. That answer your
Yes.
question, sir? Absolutely. So first step for the consortium, we're actively working on starting a air service impact study to present to the legislature, taking a look at other states that have implemented programs like what we're trying to do, like New Mexico, and giving the state some options, showing them the impact, showing them the benefit of airline service in the state. And then obviously, as we move towards winter and spring, lobbying the state to actually pass a bill as part of the next legislative cycle. And at this time, I'll hand it over to Mr. Jack Penning. Jack helped to write our grant application for DOT, and he's worked with quite a number of communities across the U.S., especially rural communities, to help get airline service started. And I wanted to give him an opportunity to talk to you a little bit about the benefits of airline service for this community and what you can expect to see.
Thank you, Cameron, and thank all of you. I am the president and CEO of Volair Aviation Consulting. We are a nationwide and worldwide aviation consulting firm. We work on projects like this all over the country and all over the world. And what we're seeing tonight is not anything that is unusual in communities like Safford that are all over the country. There's a very uneven playing field for air service right now, as Cameron mentioned, and we've studied and worked with states on developing air service programs. Some states have millions of dollars a year from hotel taxes that go back into air service to bring more people to those states, and Arizona has no similar program yet. So we hope to work on this first and foremost so that the regional communities can sustain air service. Air service is very, very expensive, but I want to look at this as an investment in the community and not as an expenditure. Because if we look at communities we work in all over the country, I benchmarked what we're looking at here in the performance of this service against the other communities where we work and have done recent economic impact studies. More than 20 of these communities we've completed studies in the last 18 months. And what we find when we look at the other places where we work, we currently represent about 100 different communities in air service development. The average return on investment for every dollar spent on a revenue guarantee in these communities, if we average them out, is $2.50. This chart shows there's a peak there at about that $3 amount. There are some that have huge influxes in new tourism. Salem, Oregon, for example, got low-cost service, their first service ever, and they had 50,000 new visitors come in the first 3 years. Well, their return on investment was over $40 per dollar spent on their guarantee. Here, we think we're closer to average. If we look at where we've been so far, based on the number of passengers that we've had, which is about 1,100, we're estimating an economic impact to the community so far between $1.5 million and $1.9 million. If you look at the median there, you're looking at about a $1.7 million return on investment to this point. Keeping in mind that the vast majority of the funding that has been expended is designed for this through the Small Community Air Service Development Grant Program, the federal program. That is money that's funded by user fees, ticket taxes, no general taxpayer money used for that program, and yet we have received in this community spending back through the community of $1.7 million through that program. This, of course, does not account for things that we can't, put into dollars and cents. Quality of life issues, the ability to hire people. Places like hospitals talk to us consistently about we need air service in order to bring in talent so that they can get in and out, especially when they're going on continuing education and conferences and such. New investments that come into the community are not accounted for, and other savings that happen because other types of transportation aren't always needed. For example, if a company is spending money, it's 67 cents a mile for someone to drive to Phoenix with their own vehicle, it's cheaper to actually use this service even with the dynamic pricing than it would have been had they driven. And so I want to underscore that bridging this gap is important, obviously, to keep air service in the community, but it will also keep the economic impact flowing over this period. And it will give us an opportunity, essentially buying us time, to work with the state on a program that we think will work for all of the similarly situated airports. I'm an Arizonan, by the way. I live in Tucson. I care deeply about this state, and I care deeply about these communities that have been cut off from the rest of the state. And I think a statewide program is the only long-term solution, using tourist money, not state taxpayer money, to support our regional communities. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to Cameron.
All right, Mayor and Council, at this point, I will stand for any questions.
think what you're saying is that to get us through, you're asking, we need like $750,000.
Mayor Ortega, it's total of $750,000. Of that, we still have $95,000 remaining in funds. So that projection is from August 1st to July 31st of 2026. So for a full 12 months. So we're estimating about $750,000. Of that, about $455,000 from the general fund. The one important thing to note is, and this is professionally, I've seen airports all over the country as I looked at air service development. On average, most rural communities are spending somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 to $7 million a year on air service. Most of that is federally funded. Show Low gets $6.7 million a year, I believe, right now. This is it. For us, we have tailored this program to be the absolute best bang for our buck that we can.
I like when they use, when the word investment was used, because I feel very strongly, for one thing, the airport, January, basically when it got, that's no time really, to see if anything succeeds. I was in business 46 years. I saw many come and go, either because of underfunding, not knowing what they're doing, or different things like that. I think with the state looking into this, we need the time to keep the airport going. It's an asset that if we lose it, it's going to be hard getting it back. I feel very strongly about that. So I'm all in support of seeing that this airport has the chance it deserves. Anybody else?
Cameron, do you have a breakdown of how many City of Safford residents versus Thatcher, Pima? Do you have a breakdown of that? That is one of the major questions we've been asked is, we went to the county, we went to Thatcher, why are we paying for everything? And now we're coming back to them saying, oh, just kidding, we want the City of Safford to pay for everyone. So do you have a breakdown on those numbers of who flew from which community?
So Mayor Ortega, Councilwoman Brantner, we don't have the ability to collect that data. Beyond, there are some AI tools we could use to try to determine some of that data. The thing we've found is actually a majority of our travelers are business travelers, outbound and inbound. So actually we see a lot of those travelers are coming in, they're staying in hotels. So there is a pretty decent split when we look at actual economic impact. But we would see a majority of that would come to Safford just because we have a majority of the dining and retail and hotels. So, but we don't have any data on that. We don't have a way to collect that at this point.
And so if the legislature, you go and you lobby to them, they have a budget season just like we do. What is the odds they're really going to put it into that first budget? Are we going to get ourselves into a situation where, well, we missed this budget cycle, we need to go to that budget cycle? What are,
And Mayor Ortega, Councilwoman Brandner, the idea with this would be a once and done bridge. If we don't succeed at first, then we would not come back for additional funding. This would be, let's see if we can do this now in this budget cycle. We've got a full budget cycle to try to get something passed. We're obviously pre-budget cycle at this point for the state. We have time to put the study together, time to lobby. And at this point, we've already been working with the Arizona Office of Tourism and some of our representatives. And this is all of the airports have been reaching out to their elected representatives. So we feel like we have a chance. I won't try to quantify that because I don't know. But if we didn't succeed, then we would end it and wait until the state came up with funding.
and is there a specific reason why we went through the entire summer with maybe just one flight, with 2 flights instead of reducing it down when we first saw the decline?
We were trying to build the data because it was really hard to determine which flights were being used the most, and trying to determine we're trying to build data, trying to build trends, and it was really hard to do at that point. Beginning of the summer, we only had 3 to 4 months worth of data, and we were still trying to build the operational capability. We put the dynamic pricing in as soon as we could. Required some software changes on the back end of the system to be able to do that, but we changed it as soon as we started seeing, hey, this needs to become an immediate change. That's when we made that change. But it was also a change with the airline that we were looking longer term beyond their current contract ends in December. we're starting to look at, okay, now we need to look at long-term, where is this going? And that's when they made the commitment, hey, we can reduce to one flight a day if we know this is going to be something that we could potentially extend longer term.
One
I
good
think-
thing is you'll be,
Oh, that was me.
No, he.
Oh. one good thing is that in a year's time, you can come up with some important data to look back at. Where right now, there's really nothing to take a look at.
And I think that's a good point. There are a few things. One is that the model that we built this on didn't come to fruition. So the customer base that we were anticipating having didn't materialize, and so that put us behind the 8 ball out of the gate. The other thing is, as the mayor pointed out, we went through the first stage of this basically using federal dollars, and it was a learning experience, right? Because we didn't have air service. So everything we did, and I think it's important to remember, we're not coming back to you and saying, we're going to keep doing what we were doing, right? Throughout the process, they were looking at the dynamic pricing, and I think developing the actual software as we went along. And so we had to get through some learning in order to make those changes, and we did make them. And again, Hank Cameron, working with the vendor, really made the changes. And so as a result of that learning process, we're changing and we're seeing positive results from that. So the other part of this is that, and this is really important for this community and the state, in my opinion, because this isn't just about Safford looking for air service. This is about a state that is extremely large. And what I would call the primate city, Phoenix, being centrally located, puts us at great distances like many other rural communities. And as we all know, the legislature tends to pay a lot of attention to and provide funding for Phoenix and in a large capacity Tucson. This is a genuine rural Arizona need that the legislature, and like other states like New Mexico, fund it. This is just like fiber, right? This is a way to have connection to the hub city to encourage economic development and to encourage tourism. So in the long run, this isn't just Safford going to the legislature and saying, help us fund rural air service. This is us going to say, the state of Arizona needs to look at economic development, big picture, and the needs aren't the same in Phoenix as they are in rural Arizona. This is a rural Arizona need. And I think if we go as a group, and I think if we go having now put our own money into the pot, that provides a lot more leverage. Now, again, it's still a high-risk proposition. There's no doubt about it. But again, this is part of a recipe that includes things like our downtown, the golf course, right? The parks, if you want to get people coming in for events. So again, if we make our community easily accessible and you think of the development of the community as a package, and this is just one recipe, there's also that internal component of which this would be a part. So again, I'm not saying that it's a high probability, but I think the recipe that's being presented, the learning that we've done, I think gives us an opportunity to try this. And by putting that money in, I think gives us a lot more credibility when we go to the state and say, look, we're putting our money in already. And I think this isn't just a need for Safford, it's a need for rural Arizona in general.
Anybody else?
Questions, but I'm not sure how to. Okay, so Cameron, if we chose not to fund the additional 650,000, will the consortium go away, or do you plan on continuing to pursue that avenue and try to lobby some money?
Absolutely, Mayor, Councilwoman Flores, we would absolutely still continue that consortium. The nice thing here is this isn't just Safford that's pushing for this. This is a lot of other communities that have been pushing for this for a very long time. Laughlin Bullhead has applied for the same grant that we ended up getting. In fact, we're in competition for it. And we've seen that a lot of these communities want this, they need this. A lot of the other communities on that list are tourism communities that don't have airline service. Your number 1 and 2 tourism destinations in the state don't have airline service. So there's a good bit of momentum behind this, and it would continue regardless. What we're more worried about here tonight is that we're going to lose the momentum in the customer base that we built, because if you end the air service and you try to come back later, you have passengers that might be a little bit gun shy about trying something again, that they booked a ticket, they flew, they came back, booked another ticket, and then it was gone.
That's an important point.
But how can we justify being our tiny little town when Laughlin doesn't even have it? So we're asking our citizens to put 650,000 on a bet that may not come to fruition, whereas the feedback we've all been getting, and if you've read, is why can't this go to our utilities? Why can't this go to our roads? Why can't this go where it's going to benefit me? So I heard from constituents that the price is too high. I heard from constituents that this is a private company. Why are we funding them? Why aren't they self-funding? I've heard that this is geared towards businesses. So I understand the want, but I'm not seeing the value for the citizens to put that on their backs when a lot of them just aren't wanting it. And if Laughlin hasn't done this, I'm not sure why we want to put it out there just to possibly lose it.
So Mayor, Councilwoman Brandner. So Laughlin Bullhead is actually in a unique situation, similar to Grand Canyon and Grand Canyon West. They actually have airline service. They get service on 737s in daily. They're for the casinos, though. So their issue is actually everyday people can't connect to Phoenix. So they're trying to fix that dynamic a little bit more. Also, that airport's an authority. It's not owned by a municipality or a county. So the interesting thing with air service funding is it cannot come from the airport. You cannot use airport revenue. We can't take revenue from fuel sales or hangar rent and use that to fund air service, even if we had a surplus. So Laughlin's in an interesting boat because of that, because they can't take any of their budget and use that for air service. So they have to rely on outside funding.
Cameron, can you, or maybe Troy, go into a little more detail about it? I still see contingency funds, but is it not?
Mayor, Councilman Hempel, it is not, and I apologize. That was my error. I went and I created the original CCF, and then I forgot to make that edit. And I believe Troy can clarify that.
So in the preparation of the 2026 fiscal year budget, we did anticipate that he would need funding into this fiscal year. We weren't sure how much that would be, how little it would be. So we shot for a number that we thought would be sufficient. It's actually sufficient to cover this $650,000. So we have enough budget authority. That doesn't mean you have cash behind it. You have budget authority, but the cash would have to be generalized from the general fund. But we did give the authority in the budget to actually do this.
When you say we gave the budget authority, can you clarify what did we approve? Did we just
In the
make it a
Economic Development
blanket,
Fund,
just-
there's blanket funds that is based on if grants came in like the United Way grant, those could automatically be expended towards this because we were already anticipated those being received. Does that make sense?
I don't know, I don't know if it makes sense to me, because we have an agenda item coming up later that shows economic development at about 180% in the red. I know some of it got channeled to there, so that number I would like, that's gonna be explained here later on in the evening.
I think you're talking about the operational budget for fiscal year 25. It is overspent for fiscal year 25. But the general fund and the economic development fund share the same funding source. So whenever you overspend in the economic development fund, you're really just taking it from the general fund.
And
So in the essence, what happened here is there was a grant that came in last minute. We didn't budget for that. So we ended up using authority from the general fund to actually spend those grant funds that he's talked about tonight. Those federal funds that we got in, that came in late in the budget process. So what we anticipated spending and what we actually spent were two different things. And we'll talk about that later tonight. But that's fiscal year 2025. This isn't fiscal year 2026 is what he's talking about. And we do have authority now. We did put that in place, trying not to repeat the same thing.
that's what I'm trying to avoid now myself, is, now, there was also a statement made that the funds got spent more rapidly than anticipated. We've never heard what they went on, so I don't, is that gonna continue?
So, Mayor, Vice Mayor Lopez, so the initial projections we made were based on, we collected letters of support from the community, and part of that was quantifying travelers that those businesses and those organizations expected to put on the airline, and also based on, we did a pretty in-depth study that took a look at how many travelers per day were going back and forth between Safford and Phoenix, how many travelers per month were going from Safford to Phoenix, Tucson, or El Paso and flying out from there. The biggest thing we found is we need more buy-in from Freeport, and we're actively working on that. There's some technical issues that we're clarifying with Freeport in order to get this into their system and get it approved for them to use. That was the biggest thing, and the reason why we went with 2 flights was because we're expecting the load factor. What we've done now is we've significantly reduced the load factor, and the projections that I ran are extremely conservative. So we're seeing, even for the month of August, revenues are higher than what those projections are.
And Freeport don't want to fly because their policy is they have to have 2 engines.
Yeah.
And we only have 1, and we're not going to add a second engine or a larger ship until that comes around. So when, we don't know that that's going to take place at all.
So I actually had a discussion with the CEO of Grand Canyon and the aviation director for Freeport 2 weeks ago, and they're looking at some other opportunities where Freeport may need additional aviation support in other areas like Baghdad, and it would actually enable us potentially to support a larger aircraft here in Safford with no additional cost to the city. And if that came about, then Freeport would be able to fly on the aircraft here.
And your consortium has been put together by more northern cities and towns around the canyon and the northern area, and we're almost down here by ourselves. So that partnership don't jump out to me either, but I know you need to build it somehow, some way. But that's also where this company is from, more in the northern area.
And
And
what we've found, Vice Mayor, is Safford is unique in the southern part of the state in that we're about the only community that's this far from a major hub airport. On the southern side of the state, you have on the southwestern portion of the state, you have Yuma. They have scheduled service. Sierra Vista is close enough to Tucson that they don't need it. Douglas is small enough that they don't really need it. And it's an interesting community as well with their airport. Their airport actually physically, the infrastructure couldn't support airline service at this point. So we're relatively unique, but you made a good point. A lot of the communities that we're looking at are around the rim of the state. You know, Laughlin, Lake Havasu, Kingman, Grand Canyon West, Grand Canyon, all the way around the border of the state, pretty much.
well, the initial monies that we got were supposed to last longer, and they haven't. And then there's more going on out at our airport besides just this airline. We have the industrial park that's going on. We're building hangars. We're constantly updating our airport. It's in really good shape, no doubt about it. Lighting, everything. The infrastructure is going in. We are doing things in other ways too to draw commercial value to our airport. This airline is just one item in that, one of all them items we're working on. And so I kind of need monies and concentrating on them also, while this one is teeter-tottering. So that's what's in my mind about it right now too, is I just don't know. And I don't think that we're going to get abandoned. You made this much progress when we didn't have anybody looking at us. And now we have shown them that we got some muscle over here, so I don't look for them to turn their back on us in the future.
And so if there's no more comments, I just want to close by saying these are all valid concerns, right? These are all things that we think about when we think about the airline and where we want to go with it. So as the airline began to wind down and those monies began to run out, you know, our job is to bring you options, right? One option is do nothing, right? But I wanted to provide you with that other option to let you know how the service and what we've done have evolved and what we were working on in the background. It's not just, hey, give us more money to run the airport or the air service the way we were running it. It's been evolving over time. And so I understand all your concerns. So understand that the purpose of the work session was to bring to you that option so you can understand more than just, hey, it went away. No, Cameron's been working very hard all along to evolve that service and to make adjustments so we could bring you something that says, hey, if we do move forward, we do have a plan. We've been working on a plan. I think we brought a good plan. It doesn't mean it's one you necessarily have to approve, but I think we've given you something that has some legs, and it shows that we've been working on how to make this airline work long term, because it is something that will require something of an investment. Again, that We don't talk too much about it, but that passenger load changed in ways that we did not anticipate. So we've been trying to kind of dig ourselves out of that all along. And I think given that, I think we've done pretty well so far. So anyway, I just want you to understand, we're bringing you information. Everything we're talking about, I understand these are concerns. So we just didn't want to drop it, say, oh, it's gone. We wanted to let you know what was going on, what we were looking at, what we were working on. So hopefully it was informative.
And that's what I was saying. We're not just not doing nothing. We've increased our sale of fuel. We have more military craft coming in and getting fuel here. We've had some, I believe the BLM come back in a little ways. We have more touch and goes. The activity has increased at our airport. The activity is going strong because of what's been done already, and I'm looking to maintain that and get over this hump, but it's kind of not showing it right now to me.
Then we'll go ahead and close the work session and reconvene back into a regular meeting. Thank you very much, Cameron. Okay, item number 10, under new business. Everybody have a chance to review the August 11 council meeting minutes?
Mayor, I move we approve the minutes for the August 11th council meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve August 11, 2025 council meeting minutes. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Item number 2, airline service funding extension request.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I won't bore you with rereading this item. This is identical to the work session item as far as the text of the CCF. What I will read here is staff's recommendation. Staff is recommending that Mayor and Council authorize the expenditure of budgeted funds from the Economic Development Fund up to $655,000, including $455,000 from the General Fund, to extend airline service through July 2026. Staff also recommends that Mayor and Council authorize the airport manager to enter into an amended air service revenue guarantee agreement with Grand Canyon Airlines reflecting the amended term, weekly schedule, and guarantee cap. At this time, I will stand for questions.
Anybody have any questions?
No, I still believe there's a future for airline service here in the county. I don't think it's gonna die.
If nothing else, it's an action item. Anybody? And I'll just read airline service funding extension request.
Bill, are you there?
Yes.
I think he's there. I can kind of hear him.
Can you hear me? Test 1, 2. Can you hear me?
Well, is there a way we can get more volume?
I'm yelling. So this happened last time too.
Yeah, I can hear you barely.
Okay. Well, yes. What is your question?
Question is that there's no motion, so we can simply not act on this item and move on?
Or I heard one council member ask for information about other communities. Maybe table it and ask staff to come back to address some of the questions.
I don't think that the mood is one of tabling it. There's no
Okay.
motion to move it forward, so I think,
If it dies, then it dies. Then it dies.
okay, so by non-acting, we can go on to the next item and it just dies?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Fails for lack of a motion.
okay, got it.
Okay, then we'll move on to item number 3. front-load sanitation truck purchase.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Have a slide for this? Deidre,
Can you put up the slide, B?
the CCF?
I need Cameron to stop casting.
Thank you.
I guess the answer is no, Mr. Bingham.
Okay, well,
I will as soon as he
We
stops
will.
casting.
all right, this should be all in your packet, so you should have a digital copy. The purpose of this is to request from Mayor and City Council to approve the purchase of a 2025 Peterbilt Model 520 with a Mammoth FEL front-load sanitation system from Short Equipment, Incorporated out of the Phoenix, Arizona. This is a Sourcewell contract price, and contract being number 110223-NWY. The strategic goal is infrastructure development and maintenance. Background, the City of Safford Sanitation Division currently has 2 front-load sanitation trucks, with one of them used daily to run commercial routes. We currently have one 2009 and one 2016 front-load truck. The 2009 truck has outlived its useful life. Staff have priced out a new front-load truck from Short Equipment, which is already built and available for the price of $446.37. Analysis: the staff have found that Sourcewell contract price submitted by Short Equipment Incorporated satisfies all legal requirements of the bidding process. City of Safford Fleet Division and Finance Department have set a life cycle maintenance plan for the sanitation division that would have all sanitation trucks on an 8-year replacement cycle. The purchase of this truck is in line with that process. Recommendation: staff recommends that Mayor and City Council authorize the City of Safford Fleet Division to purchase a 2025 Peterbilt Model 520 front-load sanitation truck from Short Equipment Incorporated at the price of $446.37, plus any applicable tax and freight charges. Funds required for the purchase would come from the Vehicle Replacement Fund. This is a budgeted purchase for the budget year 25-26. Staff are also recommending the subsequent disposal of the 2009 front-load truck when the new truck arrives, either through trade-in or public auction. In the attachments, there's a quote from Short Equipment for the 2025 Peterbilt. Any questions?
Yeah, being that the 2016 is already 9 years old and you're recommending an 8-year replacement cycle, at what point do we replace that one that's already 1 year over the line?
We'll be probably looking at that in the next, the 2016 will go into a backup role. So as this one is down for maintenance, service, repairs, it would fill in a very short time. So it would last until we go through our life cycle of our other trucks. So it'll be a closer end.
We only use one a day unless we're broke
Correct.
down.
We only use one front load a day.
So with the quote, you said that it could be traded in. Is there a reason why they didn't give us a quote for the trade-in, what they would give us for it?
They did not accept our trade-in on it. There was no, they didn't offer that.
So we wouldn't be able to trade
No,
it in?
it more than likely would be traded in. It would be sold at public auction.
Anybody else?
Mayor, I move that we approve front-load sanitation truck purchase.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the front-load sanitation truck purchase. All in favor? Opposed? Done.
Thank you for your time.
Number 4, Water Division backhoe replacement.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Work session.
This is a request for Mayor and Council to approve the purchase of a 2025 Caterpillar 420 XE backhoe loader and a 2025 Caterpillar 450 backhoe loader from Empire Cat utilizing Omnia Partnership Contract 212816-01. The goal is financial management and infrastructure. As a background, the City of Safford Water Division utilizes backhoes for construction and maintenance needs within the water system. The City of Safford owns a 2004 710 John Deere and a 2005 Caterpillar 420D that are past due for replacement or showing signs of aged equipment. By replacing these items, the Water Division will be able to maintain a reliable fleet of heavy equipment to ensure we are able to respond and accomplish any task that may require the use of these items. The City of Safford received quotes from Empire to purchase the CAT 420 XC in the amount of $149,205.54. That includes a trade-in value of $15,500 and the purchase of a CAT 450 in the amount of $222,823.30, which includes a trade-in value of $15,000. These purchases would utilize the Omnia Partnership Contract 212816-01, which is a cooperative agreement and complies with the City of Safford's purchasing policies. The purchase of these two pieces of equipment was included in the fiscal year 26 budget, which was approved and adopted. The recommendation is that the City Council approve the purchase of the 2025 CAT 420 XE backhoe loader and the 2025 CAT 450 backhoe loader utilizing the Omnia Partnership Contract 212816-01. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
You said this was approved in the budget. Is this coming out of the fleet replacement plan? Or are we leasing? Or are we loaning? What are we doing with this one?
Mayor, Councilmember Brantner, this was included in the utility budget, sorry. And so we purchased out of that. We included that in our budget, utilizing the enterprise funds.
And they did accept trade-in.
They do accept trade-in. Yep, they came in, they assessed the two backhoes that we are going to replace, and they would take those for the amounts that are part of the agreement here.
Now, I have to ask Mr. Bingham later. We've purchased lots of vehicles. I'm hoping that our vehicle purchase pocket is holding up.
So as Morgan told you, it's technically coming out of the vehicle replacement fund, Morgan. You pay into the vehicle replacement fund, and then we use those funds to pay this. So this is technically vehicle replacement. There is $8 million in cash in the vehicle replacement fund that we have programmed to spend to get us caught up on some of these fleet replacements that you're hearing about tonight. So there is sufficient money to cover this. There's no need to raise any fees.
I've forgotten how we replenish that fund.
It gets replenished through monthly service fees to each one of the departments. So every department that has a vehicle gets assessed a certain value, and that value is transferred over to the vehicle replacement fund monthly. So that's how they pay for it.
That many millions don't last long when Mr. Henry gets his hands on them. So
We have a plan.
thank you, sir.
I'm sorry, I think Mr. Bingham back there had a comment that I couldn't hear. Was there something? Did you have a comment that you said that we couldn't hear? Okay.
I'm used to calling you chief. I'll probably call you chief the rest of your life, so.
Apologize for misspeaking about the funding, where it's coming from.
That's okay. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mayor, I move that we approve the purchase of a 2025 Caterpillar 420 XE backhoe loader and a 2025 Caterpillar 450 backhoe loader from Empire Cat.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the Water Division backhoe replacements. All in favor? Opposed? Carries. Number 5, design budget increase request, 26th Street and Graveyard Wash crossing improvements, CPI number PK 2502.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a request from Mayor and City Council for a design budget increase for the 26th Street and Graveyard Wash crossing improvements. This was CIP project, PK 2502. Strategic goals are infrastructure development and maintenance and growth and development. This project is funded by the general fund with a current budget amount of $100,000. The project includes designing a 400-foot extension of local roadway along the 26th Street alignment. The proposed improvements will feature a paved roadway with curb and gutter and sidewalk and street lighting. In order to cross Graveyard Wash, a concrete box culvert will be required. These improvements will require some local changes to Graveyard Wash and the multi-use path. Additionally, the project will include stubbed extensions for city-owned utilities, including water, sewer, electricity, and gas. This design will allow for access and development of the city's recently acquired property just north of the cemetery. The city has contacted EPS Group of Mesa, Arizona for a design proposal for the project. EPS Group is a part of the Strategic Alliance for Volume Expenditures, SAVE, and is an approved contractor with the Arizona State Procurement Office. EPS Group submitted a proposal with a total fee of $116,145. An additional 10% contingency was added, bringing the total to $127,760. The design for the 26th Street and Graveyard Wash crossing improvements project is in the city's capital improvement plan for this year, fiscal year 26. So current budget for this project is $100,000. The additional funding needed is $27,760, bringing a total amount of $127,760. Staff has found that the proposal submitted by EPS Group is a fair and reasonable price based on industry standards and current market conditions. EPS Group is qualified to complete this work as specified for this project. Therefore, staff is recommending the contract award for the design of 26th Street and Graveyard Wash crossing improvements to EPS Group in the amount of $127,760. And I'll stand for any questions.
Is EPS Group the only place that you contacted to get pricing?
For this project, yes, Mayor and Councilwoman Fuller. Yes, for this project it is. It's somebody who's done some local work for in our community who's reached out to us, and we're trying to get some more engineering firms on board to help us achieve more of our projects, since we have a lot of projects and we give a lot to others, and we're just trying to balance it out to get more done and as far as our capital improvement projects. So we reached out to them, well, they reached out to us, looking for some work, and we thought we would give them a shot at this project.
There's kind of a lot in this description. I'm a very visual person. Can you kind of break down what this is? Because it talks about a extension
Absolutely.
and road and light. What is,
So if Councilwoman Bratner, Mayor, so if you've ever been to the intersection of 26th Street and 8th Avenue, it's currently a three-way intersection. We want to extend that intersection to the east, making it a four-way intersection. And then just directly to the east is Graveyard Wash. So we want to get across Graveyard Wash, so extend the roadway across the wash a couple hundred feet further to the east. That way we can have access to that lot, which currently we don't have any access to other than the cemetery. So we would extend our roadway, extend our utilities to the east.
and the path lighting is there. So are you talking about putting the street lighting from 26 to Discovery, or is this just in that
No.
little area?
It would just be that short section, about a 400-foot section.
Okay.
And you said sidewalk, is there sidewalk on both sides?
Mayor, Vice Mayor Lopez, yeah, we would, this is just for design, so we would design it for sidewalk on both sides.
Well, since that's gonna help us cross that wash and utilize that walking path in there, and then we're gonna put the bridge over by the park, put in a bike path too.
Excuse
Bike
me,
path,
a bike path.
yes.
Yeah, we definitely have the room that we could do that, yes.
Okay.
So we would consider that.
Now, you talked about utilities. I don't know, do you fill the sewer since it has to have a certain slope? Is it gonna be able to, go under the wash?
Yeah, Vice Mayor Lopez, we've just looked at it preliminary, but the sewer depth right there, that manhole in the intersection is about a little over 9 feet deep. The wash is roughly 6 feet, so we would have about a foot or two of cover between our box culvert and the top of our sewer.
Good, so we shouldn't need no lift,
No.
and it'll pick up that area out there once we get that sewer shot over there
Yep,
for what we have planned in that area.
that's the goal, yep.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Don't take this like I'm gonna say it, because I'm real crude with my words, but this was not even a possibility a year ago. We didn't own any property there, and it feels like this is getting jumped forward to give somebody a job, and I don't wanna. We've got a whole bunch of projects that haven't got any traction lately. And now this one, that's the last one thrown into the pot, is gonna come out first. How does that play out?
Mayor, Councilmember McGoy. So this was planned and budgeted for this year. It's just for design. So we have the design on the shelf ready to go. I don't think it's jumping any other projects by any means.
Well, I guess I'm asking, we've got a whole bunch of projects that supposedly have been designed for 7 to 10 years and we can't get them built. Are we wasting money? Is this gonna sit for 5 years after we design it? Or are we really gonna do something here?
I would hope it would move forward. I mean, we've had preliminary discussions for grant funding in that area to, kind of do some expansion as far as our recreational facilities. So that's the whole goal, is we want to get over there so we can go after this grant funding to develop that area.
Again, I apologize for how that comes
No,
out, but it just seemed backwards.
Mayor Ortega, Councilman McGoy, he's exactly right. I mean, this was kind of the first step into trying to pursue a Diamondbacks grant for ball diamonds as part of that area. And then there's some other discussions that have occurred since then that may even expand the number of projects that may go there. So this was really part of the plan, is to ready that property for those developments. And they originally were a council request to do ball diamonds. And so that's originally where it came from. Again, there may be some other things in the hopper, so it's just providing access to that.
I looked into the Diamondbacks grant funding, and I did notice that those are generally only awarded to communities that have APS, because APS is the ones that actually fund that, and there haven't been very many. I haven't seen any that have went to a community without APS. So have we thought about what we would do if that grant is not received? Are we still looking to do
Mayor
the
Ortega,
diamond?
Councilwoman Brantner, yes. And that's why there's some other things that may be going in that area. So we want to get this design that may help facilitate that other project. It's a project that we'll be talking about going forward in terms of general fund monies that will be part of other projects as well. So again, there is some alternative things on tap for that we'll be talking about.
All diamonds, them are baseball fields?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
With backstops?
With backstop, yeah. Still got one over there, Mr. Yeah, okay.
I just have one more comment. I'm sorry. I'm going to go back to this because I feel like you only reached out to one group, and they are, in my opinion, significantly above our budget amount. And I'm just curious why we didn't reach out to anyone else or try to.
Mayor, and Councilman Flores, for design projects, we have to hire on qualifications. We can't go out and shop bids. So we can't go and hit Bowman up and give a price. We have to shop based on qualifications, then we get a price. And if we feel like that price is good, we bring it to you. If we feel like it's not, we go after somebody else's qualifications. But you can't really price shop design projects.
Okay.
It's based on qualifications only.
Okay.
Why we didn't go price shopping.
Okay. Thank you.
I do want to note that I am asking for, an additional 27,760, but the proposal we have is for, it will likely be 16,000 extra. I did want to include a little extra just in case something comes up, so.
Anybody else? And if not, it's an action item.
Mayor, I move that we approve the design budget increase request for 26th Street and Graveyard Wash Crossing improvements.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the design budget increase request for 26th Street and Graveyard Wash Crossing. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. And we'll move on to item number 11, contracts and agreements. Number 1, Owens Family Park, Playground Surfacing Award Construction Contract, CIP number PK 2003.
Mayor and Council, this is a request for Mayor and City Council to award a construction contract to Pro Playgrounds from Tallahassee, Florida for the Owens Family Park Playground surfacing. The strategic goals for this are growth, development, quality of life, and infrastructure expansion. Just a little bit of background. This project is funded by the General Fund, General Grant, and former CARES Fund with a budget amount of $1,594,256. The Owens Family Park Playground surfacing will consist of installing a pour-in-place rubber surfacing in the playground area of the park. I went out and got 2 quotes for this project, which varied drastically. The first quote I got was from Pro Playgrounds, and originally their quote was just under $60,000, but that did not include tax. With tax, it comes out to $64,499. And then I also got another quote from Exerplay Inc., which was $112,938.77. Owens Family Park, formerly El Paso Park, is in the city's capital improvement plan as a carryover project from previous years. The playground surfacing is a single phase of this project. So again, we have a carryover budget for $1,594,000 and $1,594,256, and a quote from Pro Playgrounds for $64,499. Again, just note that this is just a single phase of this project. Obviously, we didn't budget $1,594,000 for just the surface. Recommendation: the staff has found that this quote submitted by Pro Playgrounds is the lowest quote and is qualified to complete the work as specified for this project. Therefore, staff is recommending the contract award for the installation of Owens Family Park Playground surfacing to Pro Playgrounds in the amount of $64,499, and allow the city manager or his designee to execute contract change orders not to exceed 10% of the construction contract value if it is in the best interest of the city to do so. And I stand for any questions.
Is this price good until they're ready to put it in? Because I mean, this is one of the last things that go into a park.
Yeah, and so we have, this price is good till the end of the month. So if we get it approved, then I'll contact them and they'll put it on their schedule, and they're about 8 weeks out from being able to install it. So we're ready to put our playground equipment in, and once we get that in, then this is the next step.
We're ready to put our playground equipment in.
Yes, Vice.
Haven't been over there in a while.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, this project has several different phases. Obviously, we have a CKC coming in to do our parking lot and street, and they'll start next month. That's the biggest phase of this project, but we've had crews out there daily, continuing to improve and get sidewalks, other aspects in, but this is the next big step is to get this servicing going.
I'm gonna have to go see that because it took so long to get the infrastructure in that I was giving up on it.
Yeah, it's come a long way.
Okay, I'm gonna go see it tomorrow.
This company's out of Florida. Do they have offices in Arizona?
Yeah,
Okay.
Mayor Ortega, they do have offices here in Arizona, quite a few, but they're based out of Tallahassee.
So it's an action item if anybody else have any questions.
Mayor, I move that we approve the Owens Family Park Playground Surfacing Award construction contract, Pro Playgrounds.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the Owens Family Park Playground Surfacing Construction Award. All in favor? Opposed? Carries. And we'll move on to resolutions. Number one, Resolution R24-028. That's One Arizona Distribution of Opioid Settlement Fund Agreement. John?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Staff is requesting that City Council approve resolution number R25028, authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with the Arizona Attorney General and Defendant Perdue related to the One Arizona Distribution of Opioid Settlement Funds Agreement, the One Arizona Plan. This is the latest in a series of settlement agreements associated with the class action lawsuits that are ongoing. I won't get into the background unless you really want me to go through it. Essentially, we've gone through a series of approvals on various MOUs, and I list the first of those being in December 14, 2020, and going through various iterations, culminating right now in a Purdue settlement document that is before you. There is no money earmarked so far as to what that amount will be. We'll bring another one shortly. There's another class action lawsuit we'll probably bring in September. Currently, we've got about $250,000 remaining in the opioid funding monies that we use to buy based on their Exhibit A that kind of lays out the guidelines. So this simply is another in a series of MOUs that we sign off on as a participant throughout the state of Arizona in the opioid funding class action lawsuits. And I'd be happy to answer your questions.
Does this have any restrictions on where the money has to be spent? I looked through it, but I didn't see anything.
Yes.
It does? And do you know where that is?
Mayor Ortega, Councilman Brantner, there is a extensive Exhibit A that describes the kind of restrictions. Generally speaking, they are related to law enforcement and also to any kind of support for any addictions and counseling regarding opioid addiction. So there is a provision in there that allows law enforcement to use the funds for a variety of items.
So that could go to like the local treatment centers here.
You could use it for that, yes.
So you could use it for 501(c)(3)s if they dealt with addictions?
Mayor Ortega, Vice Mayor Lopez, yes, I believe so, yes. And it's really geared for that. I mean, the county has a lot easier time spending these funds than we do because they do the social service type activities. But I believe that we could support local nonprofits that are providing those services.
Not as an action item.
Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution R24-028, One Arizona Distribution of Opioid Settlement Funds Agreement.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Resolution R24-028. All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
This approves resolution number R25-028, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Safford, Arizona, authorizing the mayor to execute a settlement agreements involving the distribution of opioid settlements funds and the release of claims regarding such funds.
Thank you. And we'll move on to Resolution R25-029. That's the Airport Emergency Funding Closeout.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is a final report regarding emergency procurement performed by the airport under the provisions of Ordinance 025-006, which authorized emergency purchasing authority related to the operation for the Fixed Base Operator, or FBO, at Safford Regional Airport. The strategic goal is financial management. On October 28, 2025, Mayor and City Council approved Ordinance 025-006, authorizing temporary fees and emergency purchasing authority to sustain aviation fuel availability at the Safford Regional Airport. On May 31st, 2025, the airport assumed the operation of the city's proprietary exclusive FBO at the airport, doing business as Spalsbury Aviation. In order to begin operating the FBO in less than 30 days, staff utilized emergency procurement to enter into a fuel contract with AvFuel to supply aviation fuel, equipment, and support to the FBO. This contract is a one-year contract with the option to renew for additional one-year terms. Staff may exercise these extension options if it is determined to be in the best interest of continued operations of the FBO. The airport issued a purchase order to Avfuel for $1,272,000 for the first year of the contract. PO includes the following: Jet A fuel at $756,000, 100 low lead fuel at $444,000, rental of fuel trucks at $21,000, rental of the aircraft tug at $21,000, and fuel system maintenance at $30,000. Since this PO is primarily based on the purchase of fuel for resale, the PO will only be expended if all budgeted fuel is sold, and therefore the revenue is brought in. And staff recommends that mayor and council approve Resolution R25-029, ending the emergency purchasing provisions outlined in Ordinance O25-006 and certifying purchases made under the aforementioned emergency purchasing provisions. And with that, I will stand for questions.
So this is just ending the emergency part of it. Housekeeping?
Absolutely, Mayor, Vice Mayor Lopez. Yes, this is just housekeeping at this point. At this point, the emergency is over. We've sustained operations now for 90 days, and at this point, all we're doing is closing that out and notifying council of the purchases that we made and requesting you guys to certify those purchases because they were made under emergency purchasing authority.
It was kind of bumpy there for going for a while, but you made it work.
We did, and everything is running great.
Thank goodness. Hey, by the way, is the self-fueling station not up and going?
It is. It's been up and going since middle of June. So we were able to get that up and running pretty quickly.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else?
Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution R25-029, Airport Emergency Funding Closeout.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution R25-029. That's the Airport Emergency Fund closeout. All in favor? Opposed?
This approves Resolution Number R25-029, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, ending emergency purchasing provisions for the Safford Regional Airport.
Thank you. Then we'll go on to item number 13, ordinance number 025-008. And it's the amendment to Title II, Chapter 2.40, the Fire Department.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight here on request for Mayor and Council, I have a second reading of the approval, disapproval of ordinance 025-008, amending Title II, Chapter 2.40, Fire Department of City of Safford Municipal Code to align with the most recent Safford Fire Department rules and regulations effective July 14th, 2025. Strategic goals is quality of life. The background on it: Safford Fire Department has updated its internal rules and regs effective July 14th, 2025. These updates define officer roles, clarified membership eligibility, outline the recruitment and probation process, required dues, and revised disciplinary appeal procedures. The current city code, Chapter 2.40, does not fully reflect these department changes, resulting in an inconsistency between the code and how the fire department operates. Ordinance 025-008 amends the city code to align with the updated practices outlined in the department's rules and regulations. Updates include formally recognizing officer roles as defined in the rules and regulations, updating residency requirements to match the department's jurisdiction, including the Safford Rural Fire District, lowering the minimum age requirement from membership from 21 to 18, adding reference required membership dues, and referencing the recruitment probation process managed jointly by the fire department and human resources. Staff recommends approval of ordinance 025-008, amending Title II, Chapter 2.40, Fire Department to reflect the current operating structure and procedures of the Safford Fire Department. Stand here for any questions.
I forgot to ask last time, if you wanted to become a member of the Safford Fire Department, are you required to be if you wanted to be a volunteer, are you required to be a member?
Of the fire department? Yes.
Because you said there's a membership, so to be a volunteer, you have to be part of the membership?
In my 20 years, yes. So if that's something that needs to get changed, that's something that has to be addressed. But then you're forming two separate identities underneath one building.
That's kind of what I was asking now. Of if you're a volunteer or if you're a member, because we don't have a establish membership, do we? Like the name of the membership?
Safford, the name of the club or would?
Right.
Yeah, Safford Fire Department Club.
So it's a club to be in the membership. So if someone wanted to be a volunteer firefighter, do they have to join that? Is that a requirement for you to accept them?
That's how it's always been. So you can
Is
probably
there-
get some
is that-
clarification from Councilmember McGoy. He's been on there longer than I have.
Oh, you have to get hired even though it's a volunteer. And to become a member, you have to be hired, so I don't know how you could not be a volunteer and
I don't know how, I'm not sure how you could be one without the other.
Just checking. Because I'm sure everyone's fine now, but my question had been, what if somebody doesn't want to pay membership dues? What if they don't want to go to the dinners? What if they don't want to take part in the new TVs or the couches or whatever? At what point, how would we address that?
sounds like they don't want to be a volunteer.
Exactly.
Volunteer for all or none.
I think if that was to come across, or if that instance would come across, then they're going to probably exclude themselves from the other members of the department, and it is supposed to be like a family and a group. And I think eventually, probably going to weed itself out. Best choice words.
Just more of a morale.
Yeah.
And to me, it's
it's a-
yeah, morale. You have to be a family in the police department and the fire department, as far as I'm concerned. That's very important.
And I understand, Councilmember Bratner, where you're coming from.
I'm
but
just
it's
asking for the
most
future.
most volunteer organizations have some type of membership. If you look at the Lions Club, they pay membership every month. The Legion, VFW, they all have a, it goes towards what we all stand behind and what we want to do. So I would think I'd have to lean with Councilman Member McGoy that if they didn't want to pay dues, then they probably really don't want to be part of the organization.
Because at some point, never say never. It'll come up.
Chief, I asked you a question earlier in the night, and it doesn't really affect what we're doing here tonight, but I would think it's section 3, number 2, maybe, where it says that, well, I'd like us to read it and see if we can't get an official interpretation to it, because it's, the way I interpret it, it's not how we do it. And that's the purpose of this, is to get it
Correct.
said how we're actually functioning. It basically says that you can't write down somebody else. To me, it says you can't write down somebody else's hours, but we don't write down hours. We say, yes, this person was on the truck with me. It's almost always one person comes into the station and checks off everybody that's on their truck. And then somebody else comes in on the next truck and they put down, but it says you can't do that. And so in my way of thinking, that's what it says. So I'd just like to get an official interpretation and then fix it if it needs fixed at some later date.
Which
doesn't have to
section
happen
are you
tonight.
referencing?
What's that?
Which section?
I think it was section 3, number 2 of section 3.
I had a chance to review it earlier when talking about airport stuff.
Page 7.
That came across when over the last 15 years when we've aligned more from 100% volunteer and aligning more with the city policies. That came from HR, and that section there is basically at the end of the the regular city employee code of ethics handbook and that's when that got added into that. We would have to, I would think that when it comes to the officers that are on the fire department, the managers of the fire department, for them to put people down on the call sheet for calls, and that wouldn't be any different than any one of the other managers filling out somebody's time card in their absence. But that might be a question for the lawyer.
Yeah, I just thought it looked kind of exactly backwards from how we do it. And
I agree.
maybe if we added the word fraudulently in there or something, it would fix it. But another day.
Any more discussion on this particular item?
Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance O25-008, amendment to Title II, Chapter 2.40, Fire Department.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve ordinance number 025-008. All in favor? Opposed?
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
This approves ordinance number 025-008, and, excuse me, an ordinance of the City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, amending Title II, Chapter 2.40, Fire Department.
Thank you. Okay, then we'll move on to item number 14, report on operational items. Anybody?
I do have an update, Mayor, on the golf course.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. Eric Bejarano, your Assistant City Manager. About 2 to 3 months ago, the golf course was moved under my purview, and to say I'm excited since that has changed is to minimize it. I'll be upfront and say I'm not a golfer, but I'm looking forward to learning one of these days. Golf demand is surging. The United States saw an unprecedented 545 million rounds played in 2024. Modernizing our facilities isn't just nice, it pays. A filled tee time generates about 45% more than the green fee once you factor in food, retail, and range spend. With the right investments, it is my intent that our course can become an amazing community asset. I think it's great right now, but I think we can get to amazing. As you know, around 2016, the city entered into an agreement with OB Sports to manage the City of Safford Mount Graham Golf Course. Around 5 years ago, Troon purchased OB Sports. Our local contacts were Phil Green and Dominic Curran. On August 1st, Phil announced he was retiring after almost 4 decades in the industry. Dominic also announced his resignation and moved on to a position outside of the city. However, he does stay on Troon's payroll as a consultant for the course. As mentioned, the demand for golf is surging. According to the Arizona Alliance for Golf in Arizona, now specific to our state, in 2021, golf created $6 billion in economic activity, used only 2% of daily state water to serve 16.6 million rounds of golf. Keep in mind, on our golf course, we use all effluent water. This economic output served 66,000 jobs, provided $2.3 billion in wages, and generated $518 million in state and local tax revenues. Now, I'd briefly like to expand on what I was talking about in the 45% increase when we fill a green fee. So if you consider someone going to golf, we want them to visit our restaurant, maybe purchase a snack, visit our pro shop, maybe purchase some swag or some golf balls, and then hopefully at the end of their round, their 18 holes or maybe 9, they go back to our restaurant and perhaps get a drink, whether it be alcoholic or non, as well as some food. That would drive an increase in revenue in addition to just green fees alone. So as mentioned, Troon is our management partner. Last Tuesday, prior to the Legion conference, I had an opportunity to meet with them at their corporate office up in Scottsdale. The COO, Chief Operating Officer, came out to meet me, as well as our new regional manager, Tony. And I also met a finalist for the superintendent position that they are hiring for our golf course. I will meet the other finalist on Wednesday. What I found was exciting is we should feel fortunate to have a company like Troon managing our course. They manage more than 900 courses worldwide. One of those was in Dubai, and I did request an in-person visit, but that didn't go well. Troon is known as having industry-leading expertise and drives positive results. Together, they will help us capture demand, enhance the experience, and secure lasting value for our community. Some interesting data. So in 2018, we had about 14,000 rounds of golf. In 2020, that jumped to 17,000. In 2022, it jumped to 21,000. And last year, we had over 23,000 rounds of golf. So Troon is showing their true value in driving additional rounds of golf at our course. Now, as I begin to close, there's no doubt I would say that we've been an absent partner with Troon, and last week I acknowledged that and said that we would do better as a present partner moving forward. And seeing their operation, there is a lot that Troon can do for us moving forward, and I'm excited for that. So aside from conducting multiple check-ins throughout the week with the golf course, and please keep in mind, I'm not on the course, I'm at the course during work time. So we have new golf carts arriving here in the next couple of weeks, which is exciting. I started exploring the concept of bringing back a beverage cart. So right now I'm exploring the return on investment. I did see our beverage cart out in the desert, so we'll probably work on getting that removed because it's no longer usable. The clubhouse roof, you may notice or may have been told that was just replaced, and that was an insurance claim. The restaurant has extended their hours on the weekends, so right now we're testing that market to see what kind of outcome we have. If you've visited the course, there's a brand new ball dispensing machine. As you get on site, we're exploring the cost of a net system on the residential side of the driving range. That would be the east side because of some ongoing complaints with balls striking privately owned homes as well as vehicles. So we are working to address that. In September, we have a planned budgeted remodel for the kitchen. So that is exciting and they are exciting. Overseating will also take place in September. There were some recent concerns voiced in the community. I heard, our folks at the golf course heard as well, that maybe we weren't taking as good a care of the course since Dominic departed. Keep in mind, again, he is still on staff as a consultant. I was told that that was purposeful. The reason why is we had to punch the course or aerate. That took place last week on the front and back nine. So letting the grass grow a little bit longer was explained to me. It helps absorb the impact when we're punching or aerating. So that was purposeful. I believe that has since been corrected. We're reviewing some additional items for the driving range that are exciting. I have made a trip out to Sierra Vista to see some items that they placed in their driving range this weekend. I was actually up in the valley again and spoke with our contact at Troon, who introduced me to the GM at the grass clippings facility. I toured that on Saturday. Completely amazing. So I'm looking forward to see what Troon can help us accomplish. We're currently reviewing all of the plans we have with our city team. As you recall, the council approved redoing the entryway as well as the wedding venue. So what I've asked our team to do is let's put our heads together again, as well as with our folks at the golf course, and come up with a solid plan for the spend of those already approved funds. So I'm excited for that. And then we're also reviewing, and I spoke to Troon about this last week, our irrigation system. As most of you know, part of that system was installed in the 70s. And there's been a lot of technological advances in that time frame. We could certainly do better, which would also help us be more efficient with the water usage, the effluent water we put on that course. Lastly, our water features should come online hopefully at the end of September when they're overseeding. Lance and his team have some plans to get out there and do some clay in some of those ponds that we have to get some water moving. So that should add to the ambiance of the course, if you will. Lastly, I wanted to add that in 2023, thanks to Morgan, he pulled some data. We used 190 million gallons of effluent water on the course. So that the good news is that that was all effluent water. So as you heard, exciting things are happening at the golf course. We've got a great partner in Troon. I intend to maximize their expertise on making our course a destination course in Arizona. I'm not a golfer yet, but I'm excited for what's to come. That said, thank you so much. Thank you for your interest in our golf course, and I'd be glad to answer any questions for you.
It popped up, you talked about the signage. I thought Councilman Flores had said that we would not move forward with signage unless it came back to council for approval, even though it was approved in the budget.
Right, and that's what we're working on internally, is to come up with something we can bring back. So we're not going to do anything until we come back to council. That money that was approved, I want to look at how we can best spend that. You may be aware, our initial plans were to extend the north side of the clubhouse for a wedding venue. However, there is an opportunity to complete what was started in the Mesquite area, which is a beautiful area for events. So we're looking at completing that. It needs some electrical work, some water, some wastewater. So we're looking at the overall package before we just start spending money here and there. So I will bring you back an amazing plan, I hope.
And the security system has been updated? And how's that
Yes, Mayor and Councilwoman Brantner. So our team got out there and installed poles. They installed lighting. So that whole area around the cart barns is now well lit in the evenings. There are cameras also in place in that entire area. So for anybody listening, you can't walk around the cart barns or that area without being seen on camera. So just be advised.
Especially with new carts coming.
When you said we've been absent, does that mean we're gonna have more say on what's going on out there now?
Well, I can't speak past the last 13 months. I can say since I've been involved with the golf course, they've always been receptive to anything I've had to say. It's a partnership, and I think it works both ways. From what I've seen, I don't want to sound negative, but I think we could be more involved, and that's what I plan on doing. Like I mentioned, touring Troon's facility, I saw that we have a gem of a partner, and I anticipate to leverage every ounce that I can out of that.
Because we hear comments too on how it's being run. I just want to make sure that going through you, it's going to be heard.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, as long as it's on this microphone, I think it's loud they would hear. But yes, sir, they will hear us. I've had great communications. Like I said, the COO didn't have to come out and meet with me, but he did. We talked for about a half an hour last week. I thought that was amazing. The tour, I met their legal team, folks from HR, folks from their development, folks from their business team. So I really feel like they've been a partner there. We just haven't leveraged, so I intend to leverage that.
Okay, because there's been comments, of course, all the way from how the facility's been run, the extended hours, things like that, to weed control, all kinds of comments. So we're going to get them in your hands to talk to Troon about them. Purchases of fertilizer, overseeding, when they do kill gophers, when they don't kill gophers. The whole gamut showed up since this golf course. We've been going through this phase the past few months.
I'm your guy, Vice Mayor.
I hope so, sir. And the signage, the entryway, when we're saying that you come back to us, does that also mean any design or anything that goes on there?
I don't know if the request was to bring back the wedding to Mayor and Council?
The entryway.
Oh, the entryway. Yes, the plan is that anything that happens with the entryway, I think that was the request, that it comes back to Mayor and Council for review and final approval.
Okay.
Actually, wasn't there a request for the library?
Just for both.
Was it?
I do have just a couple of quick things. I do want to mention to other council members, I'm out there often, but if you haven't seen the venue out in the Mesquite area, you should go and visit it. They will drive you out there in a cart, and it is amazing. So I highly recommend you go and visit that area. It does need a restroom. I hope that'll be in the plans, maybe.
Duly noted. Thank you.
And then advertising. I don't see a lot of advertising. I would love to see some more advertising. They're at the course. I mean, they could put up more signage there that they're open a little bit later. We have people running in at 7. Are you closed yet? And they're like, oh, no, we stay open later now. And people just don't know. So I think if we can increase that advertising, I think that would be super helpful. But yeah, it's going really great. So thank you, Eric, I know I've reached out to you a few times, and I appreciate that you've been on top of it and your quick responses. So thank you.
Thank you.
And so the whole point tonight was, because I know we're already getting comments on things. As you can clearly see, we're paying a lot of attention to the golf course, and we'll be having further conversations moving forward about things that we want to do at the golf course. So staff fully intends to engage with the council, but again, that's an underdeveloped asset that is very similar to what occurred, I believe, at the airport, where you can see what we've done at the airport. And Eric has been diving in very deeply and covering a lot of bases and very engaged out there. So I wanted you to get this operational report to understand that we're moving forward with the golf course. We will bring things to you, but there's no absenteeism at this point. We're fully engaged. We have ideas. We have plans. We'll be bringing them to you. And so any comments to the contrary fly in the face of everything that Mr. Bejarano just covered and the things that we will be bringing you in the future.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and move on to the financial reports. Department financials for fiscal year 2025, quarter number 4.
Mayor, if I could interject just real quickly with I guess it's a procedural request. Any items that are referenced and relates to the revenue expenses P card, not to give extra work to staff, but can we have anything that's referenced pulled up on the screen to be viewed? I've done a poor job in the past of keeping track of those and we reference a lot of items, and I think it would be helpful to get them more formally in the record by pulling them all up.
Are you talking about like P-card transactions?
Right, yeah, not every transaction, but anything that is
We can pull them
questioned
up on screen.
from the dais, yes.
Yeah, so if there's specific items, we can always pull them up.
Right.
And if anybody has a question and discuss the item, we can do that on screen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Matthew Hoschel, your Deputy Finance Director. I have in front of you, I gave you a copy of the new and approved report. There were some discrepancies that I had found. Actually, a council member pointed out some of them or some questions she had, and as I looked deeper into the formulas, because this is generated through a spreadsheet, there were some discrepancies in the way the formulas were carrying through. So I did change those. You'll see some of the numbers are changed differently from your packet. I'll have the city clerk update that when she puts it in the minutes and then puts the packet back out there. I've also given council as well the local sales tax revenue report. This is a report that I generate monthly. Typically, I've been sending it out to council monthly. I think we peeled that back to quarterly as well. So this is the final quarter of fiscal year 25. So this gives council an opportunity to look at the sales tax specifically as it is in the general fund. I will note that the way that this report is generated is based off of a software through the Phoenix BI system, and that system does it at time of receipt of the business. And once they put the receipts into, when they code the taxes, whereas the money that we receive from the state comes in typically a month, 2 months prior to that actual receipt in the business. So the report that I give you in the local sales tax is more up to date than what you're going to see in a financial report as this, because when we actually receive it from the state, there's a little bit of a lag on that. I don't want to go through line by line in this, kind of just go through and give maybe some of the overall talking points on the different colors and then the different sections of this. As you can see in the column, the third column over is the percent of the budget. We have the budgeted in the first column after the departments and then the actual spends. And then the next columns after that are the 24 budget and 24 actual and the percent there. So what you can do is you can look and see where the departments were at this point in the year, last year in the fiscal year, what percent, what amount, what we changed in the budget, and then what the amounts changed to as well. I did do a color coding with it. Really just my way to code it. Doesn't mean anything good or bad. Really, it's just a way to look at it and visualize the data. I too am also kind of a visual person. I heard Councilwoman Brantner say that earlier. Green means they were within 5% of 100%. Yellow means they were less than 5% of the 100%. 100% would be of the total because we are through 4 quarters. The expectation is that you spend 100% of your budget. If it were 75% through 3 quarters, that would be the expectation. But also we talked about in the prior time that spending does vary depending on large purchases. Red means that you were over 100%. Not necessarily a bad thing. These could have been decisions made throughout the year where council decided that they needed to go out and spend contingency, et cetera. Or if we approved that prior to this. So I do want to point out that the city attorney's budget was over. That was due to utilizing more attorney services throughout the year. This is a number that we kind of ballpark at the beginning of the year based on how much we will use the attorney. If we use the attorney more throughout the year, obviously we have to pay to use the attorney hourly. We don't have an on-staff attorney. He's based off of an hourly rate. And if we have more opportunity to use them throughout the year than what we budgeted in prior years, that number is going to trend differently. Outside of that, kind of a big point I want to make is that a lot of these budgets operationally are, they're coming up between the 80 to 90%. They're not getting very close to that 100% mark. So when we talk about different departments and how much they spend and relative to what we budget, note there are a lot of departments that actually don't reach even close to 90% of what we budget for them in the fiscal year. Some of that could be good fiscal practice by your different departments. Other that could be just the timing of when purchases are made. If there's large purchases that aren't going to arrive until the next upcoming fiscal year, that could be some of that. But I do want to point out that Planning Community Development did have the air show in their budget this year. That number came in a little bit higher. And going forward, that number is going to be budgeted out of the airport fund. As the airport does bring in more revenue with their fuel purchases, we're trying to get that fund up and going as an enterprise fund. And what that means is that it will be able to self-sustain itself and be able to put money into what would be its own airport fund balance. I showed you throughout the budget cycle the different fund balances in our enterprise funds. The idea is that the airport would be able to generate enough revenue to support its expenses and then also move forward with its capital expenses out of its fund balances. And that does lead me to a point. Earlier tonight, we talked about the air service. So Cameron brought up a point, and I don't think that it was conveyed the best way possible in terms of a budgetary standpoint. The money that's used for air service cannot come out of the airport fund. There's a restriction on that fund, so that money cannot commingle with revenues that are generated at the airport. So all the fuel, all the tie down, all of that cannot be used for air service. The only thing those monies can be used for are air service alone. So all the grants that we get for air service, all the money that goes towards air service can only go towards air service. It can't go to the business park infrastructure. It can't go to any capital improvement projects. It has to go to air service. And it's the same with the money that's generated at the airport in terms of fuel, in terms of the business park leases, all that cannot go towards the air service. It has to go back to the airport if we want to maintain it as an enterprise fund. So I thought I would bring that up. Maybe too late now, but important point still. Other things are like recreational programming. They're over because of the salary or the lifeguards. The pay that we pay them. This year, I think we brought on more lifeguards. And so that's why that number is a little bit higher. I did want to point out too, golf course is up. There was more funds that we had to do or had to give them this year in terms of what they budgeted. The number that I put in the budget category is typically what they send us based on their projection. Unfortunately, their projection was low, and so we had to end up paying more money for the contract service with them this year. We do have in our contract that we do subsidize any losses that they have, or we cover any expenditures over what they budget. And then I did, at the request of Councilwoman Flores, I did put on there the airport and golf course revenues this time. I did have a request from my finance director to put the investment income on, or investment revenues on there, which I think it's appropriate going forward. I do want to give our finance director some kudos on that subject. When he first came to the city, we were bringing in around $400,000 in interest on our investments across all funds. I think in the past year alone, that has risen all the way up to around 2.2, almost $3 million. So that's definitely been one of our priorities, is to be able to invest our money and do it in a responsible manner. You've seen you've seen a presentation he went out and got an investment company, our consultant who we use. So that has paid dividends in terms of how that number has increased.
Does it come to the general fund, or you reinvest?
So that is a good question. Part of it can come to the general fund. Typically, it's being reinvested, and that's across all of the funds. So it's not only general fund money. There's investments across many of the funds. The enterprise funds have investments as well. So a portion of it can come back. We have gone out and we've gotten commercial or CDs and local banks to kind of put money back into the community that way. That money, we're not allowed to go over a $250,000 amount because that's how much is insured. So that money comes back into the general fund where we put the CDs, but that money stays with those banks, that $250,000, as long as it's a appropriate rate.
You said it can come back. Does it come back?
Some of it does, some of it gets reinvested.
But where does it go?
It goes into our general fund cash to support cash payments throughout the month.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody have any questions on the general fund expenditures? Anything that sticks out to them that I could help clarify maybe? And if not, I can come back with an answer.
Could you just kind of touch on the economic development and let us
Yeah,
know why?
that's a good question. So the Economic Development Fund, with us not being able to commingle the monies of the air service with the airport fund, we had talked about using the Economic Development Fund because the air service is primarily economic development in our mind. We talked about the economic impact on it and the hotels, and a lot of those are economic development things. We decided to use that fund to fund the air service. We didn't budget for that happening. That kind of the way that the air service came about was unbudgeted. We do have an overage of 600. It's at 677,000. We only budgeted 325. There is a revenue to back that up, though. So even though we budgeted that much, the revenues that came in as grant money. I don't know why it's not showing up on this sheet. It could be because of the way that we coded it. And I'll have to look at that. I can get that number and exactly how much that grant money is. I do know that the money for the air service, the grant air service, did go into that to offset that. But know that any money that was spent was offset by a grant source or a revenue source on that side. So it wasn't like a contingency use. And the Economic Development Fund typically in the past was used for like housing incentives, or we used it for a water development fees to cover water development fees, waiving the fees for development capacity fees and stuff like that. I did have a question on revenues too, that I want to kind of talk about. So our revenues do look flat year over year in the general fund, and the reason for that is because of the state shared income tax. They flattened the rate of income tax a couple of years ago, and we're just now seeing the impact because of when you file your income taxes. There's a lag on it. And so we had known that that was going to happen and budgeted to that flat number. Fortunately for us, it came in higher than what we budgeted. Not that much higher, but we're not seeing as large of an impact because the income taxes came in higher, even though it did go to a flat tax. There was a hold harmless in place for 2 years prior to that. So we did see a kind of an increase due to that. But the new number going forward, the flat increase or the flat income tax is going to stay in place, at least for the foreseeable future. Now we were able to kind of trend off of that income tax. So that if you had a question about the revenues side of the general fund, the reason that it's kind of flat year over year in that category is because of the flat income tax.
With the revenues at the league meeting we all just attended, we found out that Santan Valley incorporated, and so now we're going to take a hit. We were told Pima's going to take a $25,000 hit starting in 2027. Do you know the amount that we'll take?
I don't. I know I have received a report from the league on what that impact would be. I did see that they incorporated it as well. I haven't crunched the numbers on what year over year that impact is going to be on us. I do know that the report that I gave you in terms of sales tax, which is local sales tax, we won't be affected by the Santan incorporation. The only thing that we will see an impact on is our state shared sales tax, because obviously there's another entity now that the state has to share that with. The income tax will be affected. There will be an impact on HERF revenue because there's another entity, and where they share that. VLT is another one that will be affected. So those are the major state shared revenue sources that are going to be affected by that. I can send you all the report that I get from the league on what those numbers would look like. I think they might have something more up to date in the future now, knowing that they incorporated the last report we got was kind of a what if they did. So I think there's still a lot they have to figure out too on the exact population, because it is based off of a population of the municipality. And so they kind of gave rough estimates on what the area is going to be that's incorporating. I can get more solid numbers when the league puts something out though, and pass that on to council.
Thank you.
I do see another error on my part. Obviously, we didn't budget a negative $150,000 in HERF, so I'll have to go back and clear that up. But just know that the year-over-year actuals are on par, around par. We knew that the HERF was actually decreasing. HERF's major revenue sources are VLT and then fuel purchase. And as we see more fuel efficient cars and we see electric cars, they aren't purchasing as much fuel at the pump, right? And so that number is decreasing, and that is something that we are seeing across the whole state, is just the decrease in HERF funds to municipalities. And then VLT vehicles the way that people are licensing their vehicles now, that number has remained flat for years and years and years. So we aren't seeing an increase even though the HERF expenditures are increasing. We can move on to enterprise funds now. I did fix some of the numbers on the 24 side. They were including encumbrances, so that's why you'll see a large difference now, is that they shouldn't be including encumbrances in the budget side of the FY24.
Did we have some really big water expenses? Because it looks like we doubled what we spent from last year in the water department.
Mayor, Councilwoman Brandner, the answer to that question is the expensing out the vehicles in water, and then also the salaries and getting employees hired in the water department. So in 24, we did have a shortage of water employees. We fixed that in this last budget cycle, trying to fix the wages in water. And then we did throughout the year, we did offer that bonus, to the hire on bonus. We did see more stable having more employees in the water. Even if there was turnover, there was more employees that were staying on in the water department. Even with large vacancies, we still were able to keep our numbers up a little bit more than the prior year. And then also looking at our fleet vehicle replacement and how much we put into vehicle replacement and what is appropriate to replace the vehicles. You saw tonight there were 2 in water and 1 sanitation. That's only made possible really by the vehicle replacement fund and putting money into that. There wasn't as much being put in the water side, and looking at kind of useful life. What we did in the budget cycle this year was really great, and looking at what the useful life was on the specific large equipment. That number, we changed it in the prior year a little bit, and then we revamped it even more in this year. So making sure that we expense out appropriately those costs for vehicles and the motor pool fees.
Did that, when Thatcher did the road from 20th to First Avenue, we had a lot of infrastructure we had to work on too, from Bauer to First Avenue. Were we given enough notice on that to have the monies readily available?
That is a question I do not have the answer for. I do believe that our water division manager will have the answer to that question.
Mayor, Vice Mayor Lopez, so Thatcher they did move their project up forward because they did receive some grants, but we did come to council and did get funding approved through CIP that wasn't expended, so we did have the monies available through that process. So we were able to get everything ordered, everything in the ground before they started paving that road.
They moved their Okay, they received some money from another project because they were shovel-ready, coming shovel-ready. So it did impact us a little bit because we had to move things around too.
Correct, yeah. So initially, the 8th Street project was in this CIP, this year's CIP, but we had to move forward because of those funds being available to Thatcher sooner.
Was able to recover.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any other questions on the enterprise funds expenses, year-over-year expenses, revenues? Then the last section is our internal service funds. We are seeing a little bit of overspending in these departments. The way that the internal service funds work is if there's a need in the other funds to use them, then they, obviously with fleet, there's parts, if there's parts needed, if there's a vehicle that needs replacing of parts, typically we don't just let the vehicle sit there and not replace it and wait for the next fiscal year for funding. So that's kind of a difficult department to kind of not spend. Hopefully we can look at going forward, trending out and seeing what spending is and what that number really needs to be, because being over budget obviously isn't something that we want to be. The fortunate thing about internal service funds is that the costs get spread out to all the funds that utilize them. So that number will go up, or did go up, in the other departments. And that might be some of the overages you're seeing in some of those other departments too, is that they were utilized more in the internal service funds. So the internal service funds had to cost them out to those departments. Any other questions on this report?
I have a comment or request.
Yes, ma'am.
Great job, Matthew.
Thank
It's
you.
really good. I was just wondering if maybe you could add like a half page of bullet
Of
points.
course.
That would just very quickly explain, I would say, the items that are in red. That way we've kind of already got an idea of and reading through it. And then also I really do look at your actual year over year.
Mhm.
And I know that's not highlighted, but if there are some that are, there's a large
Discrepancies.
change, if you could note those ones as well. For instance, the water one was very noticeable. So I was just a quick bullet point, half page. I don't want a whole book, but I would appreciate that.
Mayor, Councilwoman Flores, as I said last time, thank you for the suggestion. But as I said last time, like the first time we presented this, I think the last time was the first time that we received this. This is a living, breathing thing that if council has more suggestions, if there's other stuff they would like to see, that obviously we can accommodate with this. This kind of was, last time was the first bite at the apple. And we want to kind of get what council wants to see in these reports, because obviously there's a lot of information. And just looking at this can be like a wall of numbers and text. And I want to be able to make sure council really gets a full picture. I agree, I can add some language, some verbiage, some bullet points, some where I see major discrepancies or where I see major changes year over year, and kind of why the reason is for that. That way it can answer some questions leading into these meetings, so there's not as much asked. I'm not saying don't ask questions. I actually enjoy answering the questions, but that way it can kind of make it so it's more directed on where those changes are coming from. But so definitely, yes, in the next one, I will add some comments and some bullets on where I see. I won't catch everything. Obviously, there's a lot going on. There might be some different nuances that council members catch. So as always, ask questions. My door is always open. If you want to come in and talk about this report, I am available and you can come and talk to me. I love numbers, so. Any other questions?
Thank you then. Then we'll go on to item number 2, the P card report.
Oh, I think there's 12 pages of P cards, so any questions as you guys reviewed it? We did a little bit different format this time. Sorry, I didn't catch it. It's usually by department, but instead it's by date this time. So Kind of gives you an idea that we spend over 30 days, not just all department spending happens on one day of the month. It happens all throughout the month, so. We do about 22,000 transactions in the P card every year, so it's one of our major ways of paying.
I have questions, but I'm just gonna come in because there's too many and I don't wanna be here all night.
Okay.
Then if that's it, we'll move on to revenue over, did you have some?
And I too, last meeting, I said I would like, after the League of Cities and Towns, get together with you because these conversations in here sometimes get a little crazy. And so I just soon speak to you, and I invited 2 others if they wanted to come, so you could have an exact idea of what I think I'm seeing.
Okay.
So I'm not, and I don't want to be petty.
My office has less doors than Matt's. You only have to go through one to get to mine, so.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay, then we'll go to item 3, revenue over 5,000. Any comments there? Not, then we'll go on to expenses over 5,000.
I do have one on there.
Yeah.
Last meeting, I believe they came forward and needed some police vehicles upfitted and they needed approval, but I noticed in this one, just for the fire chief's truck upfitting, it was 21,000 just for that. That was quite a large number for just one vehicle, so I was wondering, is there a reason why they came to us for one approval but not the other? And then if you could kind of just explain a little bit so the public understands what we paid $21,000 for one vehicle for?
So I think it's how we bundle our transactions. I think when they came forward, when we're over $60,000, so they bundled all of the police vehicles into one package, that pushed it over that $60,000. That's why you're hearing about that. The fire vehicle, they only have now 2 vehicles, but they only had 1 vehicle at the time. So their one transaction of 21,000 did not reach that threshold of 60, so that's why you didn't hear about it. As far as what was done to that fire vehicle, our fire chief is here. He'll know more about what was requested.
When the vehicle came in, it didn't have a bed liner in it, the windows weren't tinted or anything like that, so they did siren, lights, radio in it, decals on it, the bed liner, bumper, winch, basically everything that outfits it, just like the previous one we had.
So it basically just came in budget and you had to add all the fire stuff.
Correct.
And Mayor Ortega, Councilwoman Brantner, this is pretty typical. I mean, if you look at like a police vehicle, you get the vehicle separate, and then the package that goes on it is probably what, 25,000 maybe? 20?
Oh, it's more than that.
So, Mayor and Council, currently these vehicles are coming in $35,000. Upfitting, lights, you would think a light package, a couple $100. They're several $1,000s just for one set of lights. Wiring harnesses, everything just like that. It's crazy expensive. Probably going to go up a little more with tariff situations, things like that. So they are very expensive. Average price, I want to say for our last vehicles was probably $39,000 a vehicle. You have radios, one radio, just to give you an example, is probably $10,000. So we have computers, computer docking stations. So those numbers go up really quick. And it's going to be the same for fire. They have the same kind of equipment, radios, wiring harnesses, lights, specialized equipment that has, you see these police lights, how they run. Even though they're LED, they do cost more. So.
I think the benefit we use from having Pride, they do all of the public safety vehicles in the state. They have the whole entire contract. I think we started with fire. We just asked, what does Chandler Battalion Chiefs use for their upfitting package? And they gave us the exact same package as what a Chandler Fire Chief or Battalion Chief would have. And then we cut it back from there because they have a lot of extra stuff that we don't even need here. So.
Just to clarify, I just got asked why we spent almost the price of a truck for an upfitting. So I didn't know what the upfitting included. So now I can answer that question.
we'll move on to item 16, announcement of current events. Anybody? Thank you. Thank you. If not, number 17, a request for future agenda items. Nope. 18.
Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? Opposed? Better not.
We are engaged.